What's up guys, it's November 2024 and I wanted to do an ultimate buyer's guide on buying used Apple products. I have been buying used Apple products for about 9 years. I will share on the screen what things I bought on the marketplace. So there are many lessons that I've learned over the years and I wanted to help out anyone who is new to the Apple ecosystem or just wanted a refresher on information they might have forgotten about or something that they didn't consider or think about. Please keep in mind the main bulk of this information will be talking about Apple computers such as MacBooks or Mac Minis. When you're buying a used Apple Mac, check the serial on the Apple website to make sure the serial is legit. If the owner says that it still has a warranty on there, the Apple Serial Checker website will tell you if a warranty is still valid or not. Make sure that it is factory resetted. You're able to log into the computer, the previous owner is logged out of their Apple ID, and that they removed that device from the location tracker. You want to make sure all those on the checklist is done because any of those issues will lock out your computer, keep you from using it or properly updating it in the future. Let me go ahead and pause this video and add a little comment right here. So I found this couple a few months ago and this is one of the reasons why I decided to make this video. But this couple right here, as you can see in the heading, it says we got scammed buying a brand new sealed MacBook Pro on Facebook. So when they met the guy, everything was sealed, and then when they opened it, the laptop looked pristine. It looked very much brand new, and they just kind of like cracked it open and just glanced at it and gave them the money and then walked off. And then when they went home, they tried to log into the computer, and that is where they found out it was locked up. You know, that's one of the reasons why I gave you this checklist. You got to go through all this checklist to make sure that you don't end up being locked up or locked out of your computer. At the beginning of my used Apple MacBook journey, thank goodness I met honest people and I didn't run into any of those issues because I was not looking at any of those things. I think the only thing I was looking for at first was a serial checker because the guy told me a warranty was on it. After you figure out that you like the specs, you are able to get into the computer and pass all that checklist. The only thing left on the checklist is to check the condition. Any dents, chips, scratches, and functionality of the keyboard and mouse, and being able to navigate around the OS, and being able to get on the internet, fingerprint scanner, and so on. While you're navigating around the computer, make sure you're able to pull up the specs to make sure it matches what they were saying. Don't assume they are giving you the right information. Bro, you said it's 16 gigs. Why is it saying only 8 gigs on the computer? Bro, you said it was 1 terabyte. Why is it only saying 256? Make sure on a MacBook you pull up battery health and battery cycle on it. How do you find it? Feel free to pause this part to see the steps. Click on the Apple logo on the top left. Click on About This Mac. Click on More Info. Click on System Report. Click on Power. That will show you the battery health and cycle. If you are shopping on eBay, here are things to look out for. Condition. There are really great refurbished stores out there that will tell you the condition of the laptop or computer. A, B, C, F grade, excellent condition, good condition, fair condition, busted up, and parts only. Even though they usually cost a little more compared to a regular person, at least everything has been tested, checked, and fixed up. You can get really lucky on excellent condition ones because those are sometimes like new and a very low cycle count. Another great thing about refurbished stores is their seller rating. They have high ratings and you can see they have sold hundreds or even thousands of products, and that is very worth it for peace of mind. They are also usually good at communicating, packaged securely, and fast at shipping things out. When looking at Macs from a regular seller such as myself, be aware of scammers that have 0 sales and no ratings or feedback, and they just started their eBay store 2 weeks or a month ago. I would have a hard time trusting those people, but of course sometimes there are real people that are selling it for real. I usually am wary of Facebook people that just started their account and selling stuff. My friend found himself a Mac Mini and he showed me the listing and it showed the Facebook profile as created in 2024. I told him to watch out for them. My friend showed up and everything was legit. He checked the serial and was able to get into the computer and got a decent deal from it. Another thing to look out for on eBay is if a person posted up generic pictures or not enough pictures for you to see the details. If you message them asking for more pictures and they are not responsive or not giving you more information you are looking for, you can feel free to save that item but go ahead and move on to the next thing. There's always deals to be had. Here's the reason why I love buying used Apple products. You can get 30 to even 60 or even 70% off of a computer that used to retail at a certain price. I bought an 1100 MacBook one time for 650 bucks and still had warranty on it. Many times you can find an item that is barely used and in great condition. They buy it and it just sits there. I have an M1 MacBook Air that just sits there. My main thing I use 95 to 97% of the time is my iPad and Mac Mini, and my MacBook is rarely ever touched. Now, some people might have questions about buying refurb from Apple itself. For me, that is not my preference just because I did the numbers, and most of the time after taxes, them sucking you into buying Apple Care, you're only saving money on taxes compared to if you bought it brand new. I remember seeing this one guy make a comment on how he saved so much money. The MacBook retailed for $1,600 and he bought it refurbished, and after taxes and everything, he bought it for $1,450. That's only $150 off, and any student can get brand new for $100 off. But for some people, they get peace of mind when buying it from Apple, or they really didn't do the math. Also, I have seen YouTubers bought refurb from Apple or some other high-priced refurbished places. It ended up not being such a good deal. But I have to admit, those refurbished from Apple, it is pretty much buying it brand new as far as condition is concerned. As of November 2024, Apple has now updated their default amount of RAM to 16 gigs. On their website, they have removed all their 8 gig RAM computers. For over 10 years, they have been defaulting their Macs to 8 gigs of RAM. And even though that has been default, all my older MacBooks, when I bought them, I would immediately swap out the 8 gigs to 16 gigs. Back when MacBooks were made to where you can swap out memory and storage. This 16 gig memory update is very big news, and that will cause a big shift in pricing for buying used Apple products. That means you should be able to get 8 gig RAM MacBooks and Mac Minis for much cheaper. I would assume 60 to 70% off original retail. That's if you're on a very tight budget and don't care to have at least 16 gigs of RAM and feel that 8 gigs will be enough for you. I do think that a casual user that is only on the internet, Netflix, and YouTube can get by with 8 gigs of RAM, but as a power user, you should consider 16 gigs or more. Since I am on the RAM topic, SSD storage is important too. In the computer world, we all know that more is better. More RAM and more storage and more cores. That will always be important. And that is all you need to know. For me, I do prefer at least 16 gigs of RAM and at least 1 terabyte of internal storage. I think a casual user should be okay with 256 of storage, but I would suggest at least 512 of storage if the price was reasonable. 256 is just enough to run the OS and install most softwares and store some regular files on there. Next, let's talk about chipsets or processor. Many people who are not into computers might not know the difference between Intel chips and Silicon M series chips. Before 2020, Apple sold only computers that had Intel chips on them. That means any chips that says i5, i7, and i9 on them. Those are Intel chips. When late 2020 came around, they released their own chips called Apple Silicon. That is where we are at today. The M series started off with M1, M2, then M3, and now as of November 2024, they just released their M4 chips. So here are notes that you need to consider. Note that this is pertaining to Apple products. Intel chips are older and considered slower compared to M series chips. Intel chips are being phased out and they will gradually no longer give any support to those chips. What that means is eventually your Mac OS will no longer be able to update to the latest and greatest. That means no more bug fixes, patches, and security updates. If you're okay with that, then you can consider an Intel-based Mac if you find a good deal. If you decide that an Intel chip on a MacBook is okay for the time being, and then you decide you wanted to start editing videos, editing pictures, or make music, you might have performance issues that might slow down your workflow because you have a slower processing chip. Most of these performance-hungry softwares require more processing power, and an M series chip might be better for you. Even my M1 MacBook Air struggles editing 4K videos on anything over 15 minutes, so that is something you might want to consider. Pay attention to the details when you're looking at MacBooks when people post up for sale. Don't fall in love or get tricked when you see a 32 gig, 1 terabyte 2020 MacBook thinking you're getting a good deal and assume that it is an M series chip. It might be an Intel chip. Be aware that in 2020, they sold both Intel based chips, and M series came a little later in the year, so you will see both if it's a 2020 model. I think I pretty much covered everything you need to consider before buying a used Apple product. If I missed anything, feel free to leave it down in the comments.